Welcome to Sono Woodworking. My name is Aaron Gallagher, and today I'll be showing you how to turn this stack of lumber into a beautiful set of cutting boards. Alright, so the first thing I do is I head on over to the miter saw, and that's where I'll measure up the piece to cut it to the proper length. Then I'll use that first piece as a guide to cut the rest of my pieces to the same length. Then I'll head on over to the jointer, and that's where I'm going to smooth down the face and one side of the board. And then after that's smoothed down, I'll head on over to the planer. Planer is where I want to take and flatten the top surface of the board as well. And next we're going to head on over to the table saw. That's where we're going to cut each piece down to the proper height. That way you'll have a level board whenever you finish gluing it up. And then we're going to flip it over on the side to cut it to different widths. And different widths is really going to give us the different sizes we need to make a really beautiful pattern, as you'll see in the end whenever the product is finished. Then after we're finished with the table saw, we'll head on over to the drum sander. The drum sander is where we're going to flatten down the face of each piece. That way they made up a lot better whenever we do our glue up. And after we've got all of our pieces sanded down to 150 grit, we will then head on over to the glue up station. And that's where it becomes one of my favorite parts of the build, is whenever I get to really create that pattern. This is whenever you can start to use the artistic side to really create a beautiful piece. Once I get the pattern down where I think it's going to look really nice, I will then get it all squared up, and then I'll lay it out to apply some glue. And then here we'll just apply a liberal amount of glue so that we'll have a nice tight mating surface whenever we're all clamped up. I like to use several clamps in this process. That way I get a really even dispersal of force on both sides of the board. And then after it all is glued up, we'll let that set for a couple of days. That was the time you really get to see that final piece start to come to life. So we'll then run it through the drum sander again, this time getting the glue off the top and bottom. This drum sander really makes that a lot easier process than a planer or hand plane does. After all the glue is removed, we'll then work our grits all the way up to 220 grit. And that's going to just create a nice flat surface and eliminate some of that hand sanding later on. Then after it's all sanded up, we'll head on over to the miter saw. That's where we'll take and cut each end off and then cut it right down the middle to make that set. After they're all cut up, we'll then raise the grain on the wood with some water. Then round over the edges so it's a nice smooth edge on the boards. Then we'll use the random orbital sander to go ahead and do that higher grit sanding and really start to smooth the board down. We'll then switch on over to the hand sander, where I will work my way up to about 400 grit. And lastly, we're going to wet sand just to knock down those wood fibers that raise up whenever the board is wet. Then we'll head on over to the branding station, where I'll use my branding iron to brand the product. And then for everyone's favorite part, applying the cutting board oil. This oil is available over on my website. It consists of food grade mineral oil and local beeswax from here in Knoxville, Tennessee. And as you apply the oil, this is where you really get to see the board come to life and you start to view those beautiful colors and patterns in the cutting board. Once you get the oil applied all the way around the board, then do the edges and the bottom side as well. And you can really see the difference here in the oiled and non-oiled board. It's just amazing how beautiful this oil makes the cutting board. Alright, there you have it, guys. There's a beautiful set of cutting boards. It's available over at my website. Please feel free to like this video and subscribe if you'd like to see some more of our future content. Have a great day.